Okay, so I'm Molly Norris, and I'm a principal user experience designer at Blue State Digital, and I'm a walker and a gesturer, which is why I am standing here. And exponential growth, we're really talking about super scalable experiences, and we're also talking about mobilizing people through those experiences in the millions. Wow, so that's so massive, so I thought we would really ground it in a case study and lots of little tiny pieces of very actionable, doable things for you. So our client is the Labour Party's digital team, which is really important. We don't actually have the whole party as our client. We're really deeply embedded with a very small digital team, which is doing enormous, enormous things to try to change sort of the whole campaign to make it run in a digital manner. So just for perspective, the digital staff on the Obama campaign by the end of 2012 was about 250 people. The Labour digital team is about 10. So why is an American talking about the Labour Party in the UK elections? Well, I'm from a company called Blue State Digital, and what we try to do is mobilize communities online. We do that for brands, and we like to work with fan brands. We also do that for charities who are trying to fundraise online, and also we really do it for political campaigns because that's where our heart is. So we got started in the 2008 elections for Obama, and we're given the privilege of continuing that work in 2012. And then we also have had a role in some way or another in electing about 5 presidents in places as far-flung as Mexico and India. So our job this time is to deny the conservative government 5 more years, specifically this guy. And we actually only have 62 days left to do it. So there's 62 days until the general election on May 7th. And we're dealing with the general atmosphere of apathy and even folks who don't even know that an election is coming up. And interestingly enough, we're going to actually be really outspent by the Tories in digital about 10-1. So we have quite an enormous challenge. And what a digital campaign really looks like is probably not what you expect. So it's this. It's grassroots, it's in the streets, it's people talking to each other. We love our online digital supporters, but we're really geared towards creating this type of offline activity. And that's knocking on doors, that's doing signups, and that's having these kind of real-world conversations. So we really see this person as our final user, as our kind of king apex, which is the person who's willing to go out there and knock on doors. So we love all of our supporters, but we're really about bridging that online and really making it possible to do offline interactions. So when I say exponential growth, there are all different types of growth curves that you know, and it really depends on what sector and what your starting point is and what type of growth you're talking about. So we talk about scaling very tangible things like transactions, such as volunteers, donations, people who are willing to share our message, but ultimately it's all about relationships and scaling relationships. If the green line is linear, the yellow is cubic, and the orange is exponential, we can settle for nothing less than an exponential growth curve if we're going to win this election. And we're doing okay. We're the first party to say publicly that we've raised £1 million through small grassroots donations online of less than £10 each. For perspective, the Tories raised £8 million from 42 people in the same time period. And we also are really about mobilizing volunteers. So UK elections are not actually known for volunteer base, but we've actually recruited about 150,000 people to be volunteers. And we've done that essentially in an unprecedented way, where digital isn't just a channel to recruit volunteers, it's basically the channel. And again, all of these great different types of supporters that we have, from volunteers to donors to message sharers, it's all laddering up to really building a relationship experience. So Blue State Digital, luckily, we get to help them with digital strategy, with paid media. We help them with dev and design. And one of what's anchoring a lot of this work is a high-converting website. So a website that's really a tool for the campaign and not just a pamphlet or a brochure. So I invite all the multitaskers to check out the website on their phone now. Just have a browse around. You'll see it's a really different experience than maybe what you're used to seeing from a political campaign. It looks like a startup rather than sort of harking to other types of political communication or marketing materials that you may be more familiar to seeing. And it's also really deeply geared towards a couple of principles that we try to kind of stick to as much as possible, which I'll be sharing with you today. So our 3 principles that we've learned through launching this product, but all of our work that we do with labor in a quite deeply embedded way, is about being action-obsessed, really taking personalization to scale, and tried and true and never, never, ever more true each day is a test and iterate approach, which we'll talk about. So action obsessed, what do we mean by that? So the Tories are going to try to outspend us in this election, and it's our job to out-organize them. And we do that by not telling people what Labour stands for, but inspiring them to do something with us. We are not an information channel. We're not trying to educate you about Labour's policies. We're trying to inspire you to get up and do something about what is going to help effectively change this election's course. So this is a model that I use, and if you think about it, we have all different types of actions that we can ask our supporters to take, and some of them are really high impact for us, such as ultimately, perhaps donating is really high impact. So you see it's over here in high impact, but it's actually also really high barrier. So what we have is different actions that are the dots arrayed on a Cartesian plane of being either kind of lower impact to higher impact for the campaign, or being either low barrier for the user or high barrier for the user to take. So essentially our job, there are no actions that are inherently easy or inherently high impact. It's our job to shape and create experiences that pull actions from being really high barrier to being really low barrier and high impact. So our sweet spot is trying to pull these actions down here. And the actions we're talking about, obvious ones like donating, but we're also talking about less obvious ones like petitions, surveys, social sharing, which is quite easy to do, but can be quite kind of low impact and sort of a slacktivism error. How can we make sharing more impactful? So we're basically trying to shape all of these different actions. And I'm going to share with you this new kind of action that we've been toying with to great success in kind of UX for exponential growth, which is a self-reveal. So this is helping people learn something about themselves and hopefully giving them your email address so you can start a conversation and start building a relationship and get them to take different actions later on. So essentially, the Labour Party has 3 core actions, and all of our content relentlessly drives to those 3 core actions. No piece of content that we ever put out is a dead end. We need to either recruit volunteers, we need donations, or we need people to join the party. So volunteer, donate, join, and every single thing we do is tied to those 3 actions relentlessly. We've created these action modules, which go on our website. So our website is a modular design, and we can pair the right action with the right piece of content. And of course, really importantly, it's sort of mobily optimized so that even in our mobile experiences, we can have these action modules. So I guess I would sort of take issue with, our job as user experience designers is to create delight or to create happiness. I think, it's ultimately we're trying to affect a change in the world, and we can do that through having core actions that we are relentlessly focused on as designers. And I call this basically design for mobilization. So this is another type of experience that we have. This is essentially a user journey. In this sort of iteration, it's a homepage splash. But you land on the homepage, and it asks you for a few pieces of information. It's a bit washed out, but it asks you for your name, your postcode, and your email address. It asks you 2 actions. We know asking people 2 actions is more effective than 1. Saying yes and maybe is more effective than just saying yes. It asks you to generate a piece of content, which was a share graphic. And then you can say, share that graphic saying I stand for a fair Britain or a compassionate Britain, whatever adjective you so subscribed. That was really fast. I'm actually going to play that again so you can see it. So as I said, entering this core information. So okay, it's kind of like sliding panels. It's not that fancy of a product. But this is the action underlying it that I was telling you about. We're laddering people up from really easy actions, like saying yes or maybe, giving an email address, something that's quite low barrier and easier to do, to asking for more advanced actions, like saying a value statement, and then sharing, putting yourself out there with your community, and then donating, higher barrier, harder to do, donating, higher to do. And since this is a cookied experience, next time you come back to our site, we'll know where you are in this journey, and we can make sure that other user journeys happening off-site through email or through social are kind of picking up where you left off. So if you created a share graphic, we can offer that share graphic to you again for you to reshare. If you've donated or if you filled out the volunteer, we can kind of pick up where we left off. So it's quite a literal ladder of engagement, starting from sort of low barrier actions to higher barrier, higher impact actions. So my second principle is about scale and personalization. And we mean personalization as well because we're talking about relationships. So I kind of have this model which I call the personalization scale, but it's essentially saying that as you scale, you actually need to invest more in more advanced personalization technology. When you're starting off and you have a small user base, you actually don't really need to be that personal because there's already an in feel. And as a program, you probably haven't raised enough money to invest in sort of the latest technologies around personalization, which are actually quite expensive. So in the early days, you can just kind of get away with maybe something simple like twig technology and email using people's first names. And then as you get in the medium, maybe doing those custom user journeys like I showed you before, just in the previous slide. So OK, like you're on a donor user journey or on a volunteer user journey. And then we get to more advanced personalization, which is about reciprocal relationships, where I can actually show you that I know all the investments that you've made in me, and I'm aware of them. So when I talk to you, I can say, thanks so much for coming out last weekend. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thanks for giving £5. Thanks for chipping in. I can acknowledge everything you've done for me. And that actually takes quite a bit of investment in technology to be able to do that consistently. So this is an example of basic personalization, which is first names. We know that emails with first names and subject lines convert at an average of 56% better than emails without usernames, or first names rather. So this is a technology that almost every mailer has, and it's just incredibly basic. I think email is the forgotten social media, and it's the forgotten part of the user journey. And so for us, email is actually one of our most effective channels and really directly relates to our online experiences and the website experiences. This is another experience I talked about before, which is called the self-reveal. And basically, what it allows you to do is find out something about yourself that the Labour Party can help tell you. So this is about finding your NHS baby number. So everyone has a number or an order in which they were born in the NHS. And it's just something fun that you can find out about yourself, but it's actually personalizing this huge social issue, the social issue as far as Labour Party is concerned, and making it really human, really about you, focusing on your birthday, generating your number to share on social media to find out other people's number. And essentially, it's really reducing something that's complex, impersonal, and really apathetic driving, and really kind of turn off, which is politics, and making it about something really visceral, which is your birthday. Lots of organizations have used birthdays effectively. We're not the first people to do it. Charity Water, for example, and their More Birthdays campaign is sort of the leader in this space. But these types of experience, again, are quite simple user journeys, a really simple web app that we created. There's available open source code out there to do this. We call this click venture, as in it's a choose your own adventure type of experience. And after you've learned about yourself, you go on to learn about other people who lived before the NHS, or how many people, since you've been on this web experience, lives have been saved, or babies who've been born. So this type of thing, in and of itself, is perhaps not a huge, high-impact thing for us to do, but actually it's about that relationship and about having people think about themselves and the issues, and also is a huge acquisition strategy. So we required new users who didn't even know that this was a Labour Party experience, and we're able to talk to so many more people that we never would have been able to talk to before. So they say test and iterate is so stating the obvious to this audience, but I guess I just think that, you learn the rules in order to break them, and I actually think this might be the unbreakable rule, right? Like test and iterate might be sort of like death and taxes. Like this is the unbreakable rule. And we are a huge test and iterate company. We have a software as a service called the Blue State Digital Tools, which actually underpinned and powered the Obama campaigns and is used by dozens of clients here in the UK. And the Labour Party's work is actually run on our tools as well. And the tools allow us to kind of test and optimize endlessly the experiences that we build. So when we say test and iterate, you can do this in a lot of different ways. This is a screenshot of our donation page. And you say, OK, what can you actually test? So really simple A/B tests are actually incredibly sophisticated. So you can test, for example, a message. You can also test a donation amount. You can test creative, such as photography. And the Obama, I can't tell you how many iterations this has gone through, but the Obama campaign at the end of 2012 went through about 200 different A/B tests on their donation page alone. So it gives you an idea of how much scale and how important testing is to every experience that we build. I would say also donation amount is, there's so many interesting learnings that you can find out about donation amount, and that's another thing that you can personalize, serve people the right amount based on prior history. So this is actually my last slide, and one thing we're trying to do different with our campaign is to be really issues-based. So on our website, we talk about all these different issues, and we're learning kind of what's floating to the top and what's floating down, and we're able to, in a way, drive those different issues that are floating up into our conversations to be able to gain them priority. So kind of using these principles about being action-obsessed and relentlessly pursuing our actions, as well as taking personalization to scale no matter where you are in your growth journey. And finally, just never breaking the unbreakable rule of test and iterate. Hopefully, you'll be able to kind of take something away and try something out in terms of building kind of a scalable experience around getting people to do things that are important to either your clients or your brand or even your cause. So that's all I have. Thank you.